Hey everybody, happy Wednesday. It's Aliza Hendon here, your health and life coach, aka healthy mindset coach, and I help women to not only transform their bodies and get healthier and feel better, but I also help them to create the mindset and to do the inner work that's going to support them to have the health and life that they want. So I thank you for joining me today for this episode of Weekly Wednesday Wisdom. So today I want to talk about your relationship with food and why that's important and why it's important to get that under control and get that on track if that's something that you feel is not going so well in your life. So I want to start out with a paradigm that I hold very, very true in my practice, which is your relationship with food and with your body impacts your health more powerfully than the food you eat. And that's a pretty powerful statement because what we're saying is that it's not just about what you're eating. A person could be eating the healthiest foods in the world, but if they struggle with having a negative relationship with food or with their body, then no matter what changes they try to make in their health, what they're eating, how they're exercising, it's not going to work. And I kind of wanted to dive in and talk more about that today. So a lot of us, the way that our lives at work and the way that our habits are formed is that we all have certain beliefs. And sometimes they are empowering good beliefs, and sometimes they are limiting, disempowering negative beliefs. So I wanted to just give you an example about, just to kind of further explain this concept of why your relationship with food and your body is so important. Because I want to give you an example. Let's say somebody has a belief that food is the enemy. What happens is that if you truly believe that food is bad and it's the enemy, then your body is going to kind of feel that too. And that's going to affect how you metabolize things and how your body, absorbs nutrients. And if you're able to lose weight versus gain weight, your body kind of takes on that belief as well, because a belief is something that's pretty strong, and that's what creates our habits. I'm going to go more into detail about that, but another belief that people can often have that is pretty limiting is that, I am fat. If someone truly believes that they are fat, then no matter how much weight they lose, they will always think they're fat. And this is something that I call having fat eyes. I don't know if any of you guys have ever experienced this, but I know for myself in the past, times when I lost weight, I would still look in the mirror and see a fat person and still not like how I looked. So that's kind of what happens is when you have this kind of belief, A, you're never going to feel like you're good enough. And B, you're going to kind of put yourself in a situation, subconsciously even, where you kind of keep gaining weight back. Because if you really believe you're a fat person, then you're going to continue being a fat person. And that's a huge part of what we do in coaching, which we'll talk about more later. But what's important to understand is how do we have these beliefs? How do we even get there? How do we develop these negative, unlimited, these limiting beliefs? And often it's just based on our life. It could be based on things that happened when we were children. It could be just messages you've heard from society or from your family or relatives or friends, or even messages you tell yourself. But let's talk about that example of food as the enemy, right? So someone might have developed that because they were constantly dieting. If you're constantly dieting, you're constantly restricting, then you're constantly going to be binging and going all out and then gaining the weight back. And our minds get programmed and create neural pathways that say food is the enemy, food is bad. And that can unfortunately go on to develop much more serious issues with food. But the problem is that someone who believes that food is the enemy, they have to address that if they're trying to do things like lose weight or feel better or gain more energy or whatever it might be. And with the belief that if someone believes that they are fat, for example, maybe you had people in your life who was really on top of your weight, or, I've had a lot of clients who struggle with having mothers who, were very much on top of what they ate and making sure that they don't gain weight, and diets and just constantly dieting, and it creates such a negative mindset around it. So if you, like we said before, if you constantly think you're fat, then no matter how much weight you lose, you're still going to think that you're fat, and that's not really productive when you're trying to transform your health or your body in any way. So these are just two examples of why having a positive relationship with food and with your body is crucial if you're trying to make any changes in your health. And this is exactly what we do. here at Aliza Hendon Coaching. We get to the root of the problem. Like, it's not the diets that aren't working. That's not the problem. It's not the emotional eating or the cravings. Like, it's your beliefs and what's going on underneath. So having said that, I am so excited, guys, to introduce to you a new program that is starting after Sukkot, at the end of all the Jewish holidays, at the end of October, called the Total Food Freedom Transformation Program. It's a 6-week program, and I am so excited to tell you guys about it. Because again, the idea is that we want you to transform your relationship with food and your body and yourself. And it's possible to do this in 6 weeks or less. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what we're going to talk about, how we do that, how that all works, and all the details here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at why this is important to you. Why do you want to make these changes? What's going to, having a better relationship with food, what will that do for you? And we're going to talk about understanding what are your common triggers for head hunger, as I like to call it. Like, what is triggering you to eat emotionally? Because that's a big one that a lot of us struggle with and prevents us from having the health that we want. So we're going to dive into understanding what's triggering you, whether it's environmental triggers like going to the grocery store or being at a Shabbos table or going to a wedding, or emotional triggers like being sad or bored or lonely, those kinds of things. And then we're going to dive into talking about the concept of hunger and what hunger actually feels like, because so many people don't even know what that feels like in their life, and it's pretty hard to have a positive relationship with food if you're not eating out of hunger, or if you're overeating, or if you're not stopping when you're full. So we're going to definitely talk all about that. We're also going to talk about the concept of deprivation and why cutting out foods and depriving yourself does not work, because it only makes you want things more, and it keeps you in this cycle of like depriving and then binging and then feeling bad and then depriving again, and that creates a super negative cycle. So we're going to talk about how to change that. We're also going to talk about nourishment, because the root of a lot of issues with our relationship with food or our bodies is because we don't know how to properly nourish ourselves. I know so many people who have learned to turn to food at a very young age because they don't know how to comfort themselves. They don't know how to deal with stress. They don't know how to deal with emotions. So we're going to talk about nourishment and what needs more nourishment in your life. We're also going to talk about a super juicy topic of self-sabotage, right? It's that voice inside of you that, when you know what to do and you have every intention of going to the gym or of packing your lunch the night before, and that little voice inside just says, nah, I'm too tired, or nah, I don't feel like it. That's self-sabotage. Raise your hand if you struggle with self-sabotage. I know that I do, and we all do. So we're going to dive in and talk about that. And then at the end, we're going to complete and decide what is next for you. How can you continue growing on your own personal journey to health? So that's kind of in a nutshell the program. It's going to consist of 6 one-on-one individual sessions with me, hour-long sessions. And there will also be a group component. Depending on where the members of the group come from, we will either have a WhatsApp group, a Facebook group, an emailing group, because when you have support from other people who are going through the same thing you're going through, that's huge. So you might be wondering, like, how do I know if this program is even for me or not? This program is for you if you are somebody who struggles with cravings, you feel out of control with your eating and your food choices, and like if someone passes you a cookie, you cannot resist it no matter how hard you try. So if you struggle with cravings, this program is for you. If you are a chronic dieter, if you notice yourself constantly on a diet, off a diet, on a diet, off a diet, back and forth, losing weight, gaining weight, this program would definitely be for you, because it's about understanding, well, why can't I keep the weight off, and what is preventing me from doing that? And the other, if you are an emotional eater in any sense of the way, whether you eat when you're stressed, you eat when you're overwhelmed, you eat when you're angry, you eat when you're sad, you eat when you're lonely, you eat to treat yourself, those are some definitely examples of emotional eating. So this might be the time for you to address it. So please send me an email at alizahendon@gmail.com, or you can message me on Facebook or Instagram if you would like to be a part of this program. I only have 10 spots available, and the program starts at the end of October. So I can't wait to hear from you guys, and please message me with any questions.